Welcome to Your Mind is Trying to Kill You podcast. Join your host, Alexandros and co-host Vincent Byrne as they walk you through the deepest recesses of the mind and how it operates. They discuss all the reasons why our minds persistently get in the way of our evolution, growth, and our success. But crucially, they also teach you what you can do to change your destiny. And now, here's your host, Alexandros.
Welcome to the 13th episode of Your Mind is Trying to Kill You podcast. I am your host, Alexandros.
And I'm your co-host, Vincent Byrne.
And today, first of all, actually, let me remind everyone that since episode 10, we are also available on YouTube, a newly created channel called very appropriately Your Mind is Trying to Kill You. So you can listen to it or you can look at it and listen to it. It's your choice.
Yeah, and I even got my haircut especially.
Right. That's right. The disclaimer is we don't take responsibility for any damage done to your eyeballs or your ears for that matter. But we do take responsibility for damage done to your conditioning and your programming. So you're welcome. Today, we will deal with another all-time classic topic that everyone that has any passion inside is very, very fond of, and that is to follow your heart. Right, Vincent?
Yeah. Well, you see, I posted a thing the other evening on my daily post about following your gut and following your heart. And you came in and said, we must talk about it. So I knew there was something controversial going to be discussed. You were eager to talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, because it's another one of those topics that become generic. It becomes generic, and it becomes like this stereotypical phrase of that everyone loves to engage in. You got to follow your heart. And if you follow your heart, you will never, be let down. Right? Let me preface this by saying. By making a distinction between two statements, follow your heart and follow your bliss. And for those who are familiar with Joseph Campbell, the awesome Joseph Campbell, this is one of his majorly known quotes, follow your bliss, right? So follow your bliss and follow your heart. I will claim that they're not the same thing. And I will attempt to prove that to Vincent and then everyone else who's listening and wondering why I have to be such a negative Nelly.
Yeah. So what do you mean by following your heart then? What's your perspective on it?
Well, when we say follow your heart, in essence, we're also saying follow your gut, right? Follow your gut instinct.
Yeah.
But what happens if your gut is full of shit? And I mean that metaphorically, of course. Because we've talked about our conditioning so many times, right? We talked about our conditioning. We are fully and utterly conditioned to believe certain things in our society that will make us show up and function as a normal member, of society, as a normal citizen, whatever that normal is. So we need to fulfill a certain set of codes, set of principles that will make us show up and not be rejected as lunatics, as insane people, but will be embraced. And so this conditioning, and it's not all bad, but it's bad if you are determined to actually find your way out of that hole that's called societal conditioning. And if you have any ambitions to move out of that and find yourself and get closer to that thing that we call the higher self, then you should start questioning everything, as we've said here on this program many times. So if your gut, your instincts are tainted by your conditioning, then when you follow them, what do you follow, really?
Yeah, you're following the conditioning. But do you think that if you have access to pure instinct, pure gut, pure heart, that it will act or will give you direction which is in your best interest?
I mean,
do you think we know that?
If we had access to our guide, our inner guide, our higher self, if we had pure access to it, yes, of course.
So that's what we're talking about. That's in your terminology, the inner guide, gut, heart, that's all the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. So how, okay, so we've got that on one side. So that's the gold underneath, but we have all this tarnishing, all of this muck that we've put all over it over the years through conditioning and following what other people want us to do. So your contention is that we can't reach this guide, this heart, this instinct, because of all of these layers of conditioning that's actually there, standing in our way. And that inevitably, even if we think we might be following our gut and our heart, in reality, we're following this conditioning.
That's right.
So the question then is it possible to get to this level of purity all over again? And how do you know you're there?
That's $1 billion question, my friend.
Okay.
So
I'm not going to get it on this podcast.
Yeah, it's like we are accepting donations now. And when we reach that number, then we'll be able to disclose the secret.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that what happened? I hear that there is a secret number 2, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, the secret was not, I mean, that secret is very elusive. You have to keep on chasing it because it keeps on changing.
Right.
So now they discovered another secret. Like they kept on digging wherever it is that they found the ancient manuscript in the first place, and they kept on digging and found another one.
Okay.
So, yeah, but now in order to find out what the secret is, you have to pay the fee.
Okay. Yeah. So at the end of the program, we'll be putting up our PayPal account.
Okay.
So the first question is it possible to strip away the conditioning to get to that purity, to get to that inner guide?
You know, the other day I was relaxing in my yard by my pond, and which is something I rarely do. Relaxing, that is. unless I'm meditating, of course. And my grandpa, my papu, came to mind, and something that he had told me. My grandpa was a very wise man, very wise Greek old man that had all these quotes and sayings, for everything. So one day he said to me, don't, he was giving me advice about, love life. That's since we're speaking of the heart, that's the one thing that so many people are facing so many obstacles about, right? So he said to me, my boy, don't marry the girl of your dreams. Marry the girl who will allow you to dream. So I thought that was so profound. And what did he mean by that? I thought about that for a long time. And I realized that what he meant by that is the girl or the guy of our dreams is usually the person that we have been conditioned about. That person that you see, for example, what it is that you are attracted to, and what it is that you are attracted to in terms of male or female is something that matches the conditioning of society.
So it's a construct.
That's right. Because think about it. What the average male or female, attractive male or female, back in the 40s or the 30s, any era, every generation has an ideal look. And of course, because our subconscious, our root chakra kind of attention is being drawn by that kind of very basic instinct of what would be the ideal mate for me to make children, right? This is what nature cares about, I guess. So, but that thing keeps on changing. So every generation, we keep on being attracted to another type, and that of course doesn't only match the physical type, the appearance, but also the kind of person, the qualities that the person will have. All this kind of stuff changes with every generation. And if it does change, then the question is, if we follow that image, which is our dream lover, our dream husband, our dream wife, what are we following? Are we following our inner guide, or are we following that which has been pointed out to us?
Fed into our TV rooms.
That's right. Every TV show, whatever, they have very selectively categorized the roles and the ethnicities and the types of all this stuff is, as they call it, predictive programming. Right? Because the more you get drawn to this kind of storytelling, the more you want to emulate that. Your life becomes that.
Sure.
So then what my grandpa meant by marry the girl that will allow you to dream was, don't be fooled by the exoteric appearance. And the exoteric appearance to me means both what you look like and what you behave like. But find that inner quality of a person that only cares about enhancing your life. And of course, that goes both ways. So And from what I have observed, and judging from my own example, because I took his advice, and of course, ironically, then the girl or the guy that will allow you to dream ultimately and forever becomes your dream girl or guy.
Sure.
So that's how I get to reprogram myself when it comes to this sort of thing, because relationships are a very sore subject in today's society, even more so than any other. It used to be that we lived in simpler times where you could just club your woman down and take her to your cave, and then you were married.
And then she plugged you for the rest of your life.
Well, I'm joking, of course, for anyone that doesn't understand that. But the bottom line here is that how do we get to follow the heart? If we want to follow the heart, we need to find it first, right? If you need to follow something, you need to find it first to then follow it. Right? If someone says, "Oh, follow the elf," down the trail in the woods by your house. What are you going to do? What's your next thing to do? Find the elf. So if you manage to find the elf, good luck there. Then you get to follow it.
So is it not a question of practice? I mean, I've read lots of books on intuition and following your intuition and all that sort of stuff, and whether that relates to stuff like dowsing and all that, reading cards and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose the emphasis that's put on that kind of stuff is that, practice doing it so that after a while you trust, the method, the approach, whatever. Whereas previously everything is conscious and it's structured and it's all very calculated, and it's kind of try and put that to one side and just, allow holding a crystal over a yes or a no or whatever, and allow the crystal to tell you one way or other in terms of which way you should go on a particular decision. And after a while, the suggestion is that you get better at it because you trust it, and it goes from there. So in doing something like that, is that trusting your intuition? Is that trusting that inner guide? Or is that just getting good at another technical practice that has been put forward has been your intuition?
Look, I enjoy a good, wise reading as much as the next guy. But in my experience, because I always, in order for me to arrive to a conclusion, I have to examine my experience on that. So I can say, hey, in my experience, that's cool, it works. Or my experience, that's bullshit. Now, of course, if you're listening to me, it is your prerogative to accept or reject what I'm saying, or just put it to the test and see what you get. So ultimately, in my experience, doing something, testing something is the only way that you can find truths that relate to your own spirit, to your own aura, to your own heart. Then, because everyone, even though one might argue that there is the truth, and everything else is bullshit. There are nuances because everyone has their own way of looking at things. We all wear different shades glasses. So the truth might look differently to you than it does to me. But I mean, the truth, the heart, follow the heart. How many times have you, and I can tell you how many times I have, by the way, been scorched because I followed that girl that I fell madly in love with, and I knew she was the one, right? She was the one. How many times? Many times. And how many times was she the one? 0 times. So until I allowed myself to critically think about what it is that I'm following, what is it that I'm following? I mean, it's simple, really. It's not that hard to figure out, especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to like being in love or being in lust or, looking for an intimate type relationship. You can ask yourself, okay, why am I with this person? What do I love about this person? Of course, it does take some, if you've never questioned yourself before about anything, then that may be challenging. But it's also the fact that most of us don't like to be truthful with ourselves because it hurts, it sucks to realize that either you've been duped or that what you think is the truth is actually bullshit. It's not a good feeling.
But there's if you take, like, my experience in terms of relationship is that it's highly unlikely that you have this conscious sense of what you want, this conscious awareness. It's like you haven't really sat down and thought about it and created an inventory of what you would like. You'd kind of just go for it kind of stuff. And it's usually after you've been stung once, twice, 3 times, and maybe you're sitting down with someone, maybe like your grandfather or a therapist or whatever, who asks the question, well, what are you looking for? That at that point that you might actually consciously consider the question. So I think a lot of people, they're not sure what they're following, or maybe they do, but not consciously following an inventory, like many things that we do when we're younger in particular. I mean, I still talk about my work in progress book, I Knew Nothing Until I Was 40. And that really is just, we just went with the flow. And it's only in latter years that I have tried to make a distinction between following my instinct, following my heart, in lots of decisions, whether it be around relationships, whether it be about decisions on career, etc. And trying to tune into, a guide, let's say, other than my conscious programming, although I wouldn't have necessarily called it programming until we started having our conversations, even though it made perfect sense once we started to talk about it. So I've tried to do it, and I do recall situations in relationships where I did spot a pattern of people and then went, oh, that pattern has continued because early on, this was what I was interested in. This is what I was attracted to. And when I changed my behavior in relation to the next person that I met, suddenly that whole pattern changed. Suddenly the person that I met changed. So that's probably the only conscious, I suppose, specking out of the kind of person that I thought I wanted to meet. Was one which certainly didn't do that. And then once I made the decision around that, then the people started to change. But up until that point, I hadn't been conscious of doing that, hadn't been conscious of making any choice. So I get that in relation to those issues, but that seems quite practical and logical and all of that. It doesn't have a sense of touching into instinct and touching into your heart and all that sort of stuff. It's which seems to be more about going on a hunch about things than actually rationally reasoning things out.
What do you mean? So, in picking the kind of person that you want a relationship with is a logical decision to you?
Do I think it is?
Yeah.
My gut would be my sense would be yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But how is that possible even? I mean, we know that logic and emotion are oil and water. They don't mix. Okay. Logic belongs in the conscious mind and emotion belongs in the subconscious mind. And those two guys rarely talk.
Right.
So how is it possible that this is true? Another thing might be true, if we talked about that. Every time we do make a choice, every time we decide something, that decision is purely based on subconscious programming, but the conscious mind needs to find a rationalization for it. It needs to find a way to explain it away. Because if it doesn't, then it goes off, and it loses its shit. And this is what happens when you become institutionalized, right? You become insane because you cannot explain your actions. Your actions are rarely explainable, but not even being able to come up with a narrative that makes some sort of sense will do a lot of damage in you if you're not ready for that. See, in the paths of shamanism and magic and all this kind of ancient traditions, this is what you're aiming for. You're aiming to get to the state of having the conscious mind go like, oh, I have no idea what the hell's going on here. You want that because that is the point where the conscious mind drops out of sight. It just goes, it takes off, goes to Wendy's and buys a cheeseburger for a while. And this is when the real work gets done. So we do think that our choices are rational when it comes to our emotional likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
But logic has nothing to do with it.
Okay, so the apprentice has been scolded here now. So I get that. It was an emotional decision, but I rationalized it afterwards. I thought I was in control.
Well, of course, you have to think that you're in control.
Yeah.
Because if you think you're out of control, then again, you lose your shit.
Yeah.
You become dysfunctional unless, unless you walk the path of the shaman or the path of the magician that is at any time ready to take the plunge, which is many times very painful and extremely confusing. Of course, it's confusing because there's nothing to do with logic. So we learn the main problem with this society, with this era that we grew up in, is that logic has been glorified to the max. Logic is God. Okay, we have completely disengaged ourselves from the other side.
Yeah.
So the other side hasn't gone anywhere, but because we haven't been in contact with it, then we're having trouble accessing it.
Yeah.
It's
So that's the practice bit. We've use it or lose it kind of scenario. So how do you get back in touch? How do you get in touch with the heart and intuition and all of that?
There's a way of, I mean, we have talked a little bit about that on every episode, but in this particular case, I find that most people never ask questions to themselves. I mean, how many times do you find yourself thinking of something and then asking, is that true? People don't do that because, that's insane.
Well,
behavior.
well, I mean, I do a bit of it in the sense that the practice that I use, which is kind of free writing, which is, write about something, an issue, question, whatever. And it's just the pen just continues to write for a period of time. And usually you it's like clearing the pipes of the drain at the start of it. And then other stuff starts to come up.
Yeah, we'll call that automatic writing, right?
Yeah, yeah. But it's because you have to continue to write something, then it starts to dredge, and you're dropping down levels, and it's a little bit like the form of coaching that I use is one where you keep asking the same question. So you ask someone what they think about something, and they speak about it, and then you go, and what more do you think? And then when they think they're finished, and what more do you think? And then you can see them reaching for something else, and they've given you the off-pat answers. So now they have to go deeper. So then when they're down 3 or 4 levels, they then start going, oh, I never thought about that. Look what's just come into my mind.
This is similar to the whys, right?
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing you're talking about, to keep dredging deeper and deeper.
Mm-hmm. Well, deeper and deeper is where it's at here. Because look, everything that the conscious mind is a very surface level thinking or being. So that's why it's very easy to confuse it. When it starts getting confused, this is the time to keep drilling. And that's why when you do what we call an instant or a rapid induction, hypnotic induction, that starts with a constant, a pattern interrupt, right? What is that? I mean, you can do anything, like, boom, sleep, whatever, where the other person least expects that. And then the conscious mind goes like, oh, what just happened? And within that fraction of a second that the conscious mind, is completely like, deer in the headlights, that's when you start dropping your suggestions. And, when we talked about the effect that the media has on us, on our subconscious, on our behavior, we dealt with this a little bit. I mean, what happens? Like, you come home. I mean, not anymore, you're home, but let's just say, let's just think back then when you used to go to work or whatever. Then you came home after a long day of working, and then what did you want to do? You wanted to unwind. And what does that mean? What is the process of unwinding? You sit in front of the TV, right? What do? You relax. You relax. And you sip on your wine, which helps you relax even deeper. And then as you relax, you are paying attention to that thing called what? Programming. So this is the exact process of being hypnotized.
Yeah.
So every time, every day, we get our daily dose of new or reinforcing programming from all around us, especially from this predictive programming that is called TV, or primarily TV, internet, what have you, social media. People, and I'll give you an example of that. Recently there's been these horrible events with another police shooting, and here in the US, that has been followed by crazy riots and looting and all this. Everybody is upset. Everybody is going, what I mean? But what is that? Examine this. This is purely 100% emotionally driven behavior.
Mm.
It doesn't matter whether or not you are responding to a horrible event or a seemingly joyful event. What matters is that what got you there was an outside influence.
Mm.
So if I get you riled, if I get you pissed off enough so that you go down in the streets and you start, throwing Molotov bombs and burning shit and breaking stuff and looting and all this kind of stuff, then what is it that is guiding you? Are you following your heart? Are you following your heart then? You're following something that is instinctual, that's for sure. And this ties into how we started this. Okay, if you get me upset, which is commonly now called triggered, if you get me triggered, that means that I then respond to your input, and that response is always false in terms of whether it serves us or not, right? Okay. So you could. I give you another example. There is this thing. When we saw, every country has this thing that's called like their independence or whatever. The U.S. has July 4th, and everyone is out there feeling so patriotic and shooting guns and doing all this stuff, and feeling so good about what it is that they're celebrating. But what are they really celebrating?
Mm.
Well, I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail because of this. What is it that we do when we get triggered? Someone or something has played into our conditioning, into our programming, and just like a lab rat, just like a dog, we respond out of reflex.
Sure.
So, but is that your gut feeling? Is it? It's instinct, but it's an instinct that is based on root chakra kind of instinct. It's a something that is instigated with the purpose of having you fear for your survival, like something is threatening you.
I would have thought that was programming. I would have thought that whatever was triggering. You mentioned, say, national days, anniversaries, whatever. We pursue those, or we do on those days because we've been conditioned from the time that we were really, really small that on this day everyone goes and does this, and it's gone from being, a day off school when everyone gets ice cream, right the way up through having some kind of meaning being added to it and added to it and added to it. And then we get all very patriotic and all that sort of stuff. And so to me, I would have thought that was pure programming.
Well, of course it's programming, but okay. Programming triggers some. Okay, what's a program? A program is some kind of configuration that has a result in terms of responding to an input. So if A, then B. Right? So the program is what makes you go to B. B is behavior that you have within you, and usually that behavior is the one that I'm talking about, is behavior that is based on survival mode, and that behavior is savage, is the animal in you, right? This is root chakra stuff again. So it's the animal in you, how you get to respond. That was if I do something horrible to you or your family, right? Something horrible, something unthinkable, something despicable, then potentially there will be the breaking point for you.
Yeah.
And within that breaking point, you become someone that perhaps you never knew you could be. Now, is that what you become? Is that your programming? No. What gets you there?
Yes, that's what I would have seen. That the programming has set the conditions, the beliefs, whatever. And then when you cross the line of those beliefs and you feel somewhat threatened as a result of those beliefs been breached, then you are into, primal stuff,
right.
In terms of whether you need to defend yourself or you need to run away or whatever way you choose to deal with it. But it's the programming is the bit before. And that's what I'm saying, that in the example you mentioned, where national holidays, we have been programmed that this is a really important day and what it means and everything else. And if someone insults it, or if someone does something that threatens that belief, then I resort to well, how am I going to deal with it? Do I feel threatened? If so, I'm going to take action.
Yes.
So I get that.
Right.
I get
that. So we agree on that, or do we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, go ahead.
So if you move that forward in relation to, back to what we started with, which was the kind of gut instinct thing around deciding what's good for us and not good for us, and it being based on some kind of connecting with some other force that we don't typically connect with, our hearts, our gut, our higher spirit, whatever. What you're saying, as I understand it, is that faculty is there. It's just that we have got so out of practice using it that to say in normal parlance on a day-to-day basis, oh, I followed my heart, I followed my gut, that's actually bullshit, because what we're really acting on is conditioning. We're acting on programming. Because if we're not constantly tapping into this resource, then the idea that we might do it once every so often is nonsense, even though we might like to think that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's back to so in terms of answering the question that I asked earlier, is what do we do to tap into it? You're saying it's as simple and as basic as taking the time to ask the deep questions, which are, or the key questions that we need answers, asking them of ourselves, writing them down, and almost giving ourselves the time and space for an answer to emerge. That's more like practicing getting in touch with our nature for those kind of answers. Is that fair?
That's correct. Yeah. As a matter of fact, this is one of the hypnotic techniques when you are conversing with the client who is in a trance, and the client might tell you, so and so, just give you an understanding that they have about a specific topic. Like, oh, my father was horrible to me, or let's say, for example. uh, and then the hypnotherapist would say, you would ask a question like that: is that true? And of course, one might ask, well, that's kind of insane. He just told you that. Why would you, right? Why would you ask that? It's because there is always a level of bullshitting that happens, you see. And the subconscious mind, again, is a child. And the child needs to be properly challenged and properly engaged to share with you what he or she really feel, not what they make believe they feel.
Like the off-pat answer, the top surface level is the one that they've used to trotting out to people, or even to yourself when you think about it. Oh, this is the situation, and then it never goes any further than that. Right. And then you ask, is it true? And you suddenly you're caused to reflect on it. And a lot of the time it'll be, yeah, it is true. And then if you're taking something like the work by Byron Katie, where she'll go, is it 100% true? And then you find the little chink in there to go, actually, it's not. And then things start to unravel a little bit for that story at the top.
Yeah, and this is what happens when we do any kind of reframing, for example, right? What is reframing? Reframing is take a story, take a narrative that we have adhered to as children, let's say, for example, and observe that same narrative under a different light. So you put it in a different frame, and you look at it and see if that holds any water.
Yeah.
Because the way that we will look at something when we're children is most likely not the way that we'll look at the same thing when we're adults. So then you bring, because once again, the communication between the adult and the child, very, very crappy. So you need to engage the child into looking through the adult's eyes and understanding that that perspective may not be accurate after all. And once you communicate that safely and successfully to the child, then the perspective changes. And if the child changes perspectives, then reality changes. That's how you get rid of your phobias. That's how you get rid of, any conditioning that is not accurate, or it doesn't serve you. Because the accuracy of a statement is, it's an iffy kind of thing. I'm not concerned with the accurate aspect as much as I'm concerned with, does it serve me? Because if it serves me that Santa Claus is real, then I say go with it.
Yeah. So in the context of my coming back to my post the other day, and I was talking about going with the gut, and in my case I was talking about a business decision, for example. What is the best way to to go about invoking or attempting to get this input from one's higher self? Is it to lay it out and well, here's the pros, here are the cons, or is it a question of continually asking the question, why?
Mhm.
Keep doing that.
Yeah, the pros and the cons are they're good to have, but they're just a logical
Yeah,
analysis.
yeah,
But what you need to find out is, why am I doing that? Why am I starting this business?
yeah,
Am I starting this? Again, we talked about why is it that people, the idea of being an entrepreneur is very sexy
yeah.
because entrepreneurs are glorified, at least the successful ones. So then it is the thing to do, the thing to be, especially in today's society. You see, back in my parents' time, being part of a company, right, having a good position with a corporation, that was king, man. That nothing would shake that. This is like, oh my God, he's like, and even further back, they would say, oh, he's working for the government,
Yeah, civil service, bank, large corporate.
Right. That was a big deal. Like, holy shit, oh my God. So once again, the programming, right? So the program. So you have to come to terms with the real reason why you want to engage with that thing. So what is the real reason? Because I could tell you, for example, in my whys, the prevailing answer is that because I am sick of putting my energy and my talents towards some bullshit cause. In other words, exchanging a piece of my heart, piece of my spirit for a check.
So that's your why of wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, because to me, it's something that tells me that I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting my life force. In the previous episode, we talked about our mission, our destiny. Having the chance to engage, to embrace a mission is what makes this life have a meaning. So to me, if I disregard this mission, my life is empty. And if you are a certain kind of person who gives a shit and then faced on a daily basis with the fact that the truth that your life is empty, that can be very detrimental to your psyche. So, to me, being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing. It's actually, it's a pain in the ass, really hard. Why? Because you can't, if you're working for someone, you can always do like the simple thing, like every other day, I'm just going to give you, I'm not going to completely blow your mind with my problem solving, but you don't need me to blow your mind every single day. So many days you just do the bare minimum and get away with it. But as an entrepreneur, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But on a positive note, whatever you do has a stamp of approval from your spirit, from your soul, from your higher self. And so that you are strengthening yourself. You're strengthening your spirit with every single step. Now, I'm not suggesting that everyone should go out there and be an entrepreneur. That's all I'm saying. This is what it means to me. Because you can be, anything and love your job. All I'm saying is love who you are being during the majority of your time here.
But in order to, if you take someone who, perhaps early on in their career and they have choices to make about which direction they go in, what we're saying is that as an example of a decision, some of the big decisions that what we should be doing is going through this process of why, and really pushing it, so that we ultimately, when we get to a point that we are down and raw in our reason for going one direction or the other, we know that it's coming from a deep place, and not just because they're going to give us the biggest paycheck or the best career prospects or whatever. It's actually something that is at our core, but that we should be practicing this. We should be actually taking decisions on a routine basis and going through why, in order to be much more, have a far greater sense that it's coming from down and deep, and we're not just following programming. That's what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So as we always try to do, as we come to the end, try to give people a kind of a takeaway before we flash up the PayPal account. No, the takeaway is, and the takeaway that I've got it, and yeah, we have spoken about it before, but I obviously forgot it, and it just reminded me. Get in touch with your spirit by asking those questions and going as deep as you possibly can, and that's giving you the practice of getting in touch with your gut, getting in touch with your intuition, getting in touch with your heart, all those things that we say we do, but actually, as you've pointed out, we really don't. We like to say we do, but we don't.
Yeah. And you keep on going. Usually I keep on going. I keep on asking until I get very uncomfortable answers.
Okay.
Because once you you keep on examining the stuff that feels good and feels comfortable, feels sweet, feels nice, right? Butterflies and honeybees. Then you get down to some truths, right? Like if I was to ask myself, am I a good father? Immediately my answer was, of course I am. Of course I am. Are you kidding? I would give my life for my child. But if I keep on asking, the next question would be, am I the best father I can be? And then my answer is not that rosy. You see? So in the same sense, if you're interested in being empowered every day in every way, a little more, because that has a cumulative effect. The more you do it, your power builds up. There's that thing. So if you're interested in that, you have to keep getting uncomfortable. Because by getting uncomfortable, you get to discover the garbage. It's like some people, and we are late again, of course, but I'll just finish with this. I know people that when they clean their house, they never go under the bed. They never go under the couch. The house is a pain in the ass. We're gonna move all the furniture. I don't have time for that shit. Yeah, who cares what's inside? Nobody sees that. Right? But that's what constitutes a clean house. Because you don't know what's in there, right? You might have dead animals in there. All kinds of crap starts festering wherever you don't engage, in whatever you don't engage with. So, and on a metaphysical level, I might add that this is a place for parasitic energies to dwell.
Okay.
Like people go in sage, the proper way to cleanse your place is to go to all the crevices and all the corners. because this is where the dust and where all the uncleanliness settles, and this is where the parasites dwell. But these are concepts that are for another day, because the rabbit hole gets deep on those. But they're very interesting, and we'll get there.
So just on that, just to finish, what we're saying, that by going deep and asking those questions and getting to the point of being uncomfortable or finding it difficult, that, in a manner of speaking, is a way of clearing out. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
It's getting deep, finding the dirt and clearing it out from that place.
Yes.
I also get a sense that it ultimately, when you get down to that place and you do make a key decision, it's also a key source of really strong motivation.
Yes, because that's where you find what your heart desires.
Yeah.
Oh, if you as we said in the beginning, if you find your heart, when you find your heart, then you get to follow it happily.
Yeah.
And then that's why. Have we talked about this before, about motivation? Have we talked about motivation yet?
Don't think so. I think we touched on it.
That's maybe
a mini series on that one.
I know. Motivate. Yeah, we can. That's a deep subject. So yes, but short answer, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll be back.
We will.
Until next week.
Let's be careful out there.
And don't let your mind kill you.
Thanks for listening to Your Mind is Trying to Kill You with Alexandros Megas and Vincent Byrne. If you like our show and want to make sure that you don't miss an episode, then we would love if you would subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And you'd be doing us a big favor if you would support us by leaving a review as well. It would also be great if you would take a screenshot of this episode on your smartphone and share it on social media. So join us next Wednesday when we talk more about mind hacking and taking back control of your life. Until then, have a great week.